Prince noticed that Agartha was not home and that Juliet was alone. He called Juliet and asked her to buy him 2 bottles of malt and biscuits, handing her a 50 cedi note. Juliet left for the shop, unaware of the danger awaiting her. In the town of Bilhassa, there lived a woman named Agartha, a trader who lived with her beautiful daughter Juliet. They lived in harmony with their neighbors and peacefully went about their daily routines. On weekday mornings, Agartha would leave home with Juliet and they would go to the market to set up the shop. Afterward, Juliet would leave for school. After school, Juliet would return to her mother's shop and help her sell until evening, after which they both left for home. On weekends, they left for the shop later in the morning after cleaning their house. On Sundays, they went to church and came home to rest after the service. Sometimes they would visit their relatives in the nearby town after church and return home in the evening. As the years went by, Juliet blossomed into a strikingly beautiful girl. She was curvy and graceful, with a natural charm that made her stand out, even though she was barely a teenager. She started attracting the attention of many people in the town. Soon, some of the men in the village started referring to her as my wife. "My beautiful wife, how are you today?" Mr. Atinga would often ask. "I'm fine, sir," Juliet would respond with a bright smile. "Good morning, Ma. Good morning, my wife," Kennedy often greeted as they passed. "Good morning, Kennedy," they both replied with smiles. "My wife, how is the morning treating you?" "Good morning, my mother-in-law. How are you today?" Papa Blankson would also ask whenever he saw them. These were just a few of the many greetings they received on their way to the market. Agartha was always happy to know that her daughter was beautiful enough to catch the attention of many. It brought her a sense of pride and gave her the assurance that Juliet would marry a wealthy and responsible man one day and bring honor to her. Some of the men even gave Juliet money and gifts to make her feel special. Instead of Agartha refusing these gifts on her daughter's behalf, she gladly thanked the men. Sometimes, when men praised her daughter's beauty by calling her my wife, she would ask them, "How can you call her your wife when you have never given her a gift? What shows that you can be her husband?" These questions often compelled the men to give Juliet gifts and money whenever they referred to her as my wife. Juliet, on the other hand, was so innocent that she thought she was truly loved by everyone. She enjoyed the attention she got and was thankful for the gifts and money. The gifts came in the form of sweets, biscuits, drinks, ribbons, dresses, and sometimes fabrics. While the gifts made her feel special, the money allowed her to afford luxuries her peers couldn't. She could afford to braid her hair, while most of her friends kept short hair. She could afford to bathe with luxury soap, use expensive body creams and perfume, and wear nice clothes and shoes, all of which her mother influenced her to buy. She had a high standard at a young age because of the status society had placed on her. Though Juliet was very innocent and respectful, her growth as a child was being distorted. Her friends envied her. Some took glances at her out of jealousy, wishing they had what she had. However, a few friends of Juliet liked her and were glad that she shared some of her gifts with them. Juliet was very innocent and respectful. She greeted her elders in her community with so much respect and ran errands for them whenever they asked her to. Prince, a man who lived in their community, was very friendly toward Juliet. He was one of the many men who referred to Juliet as his wife. He gifted her nice things and money occasionally. What Juliet and her mother didn't know was that Prince had hidden motives. He had developed an unhealthy interest in Juliet and saw her innocence as an opportunity to take advantage of her. As the weeks went by, Prince noticed that Agartha often left Juliet at home alone in the evenings to attend her women's fellowship meetings at the nearby church. Prince had taken note of the days Agartha left, the time she left, and the time she returned home. He noticed that Juliet would usually be by herself when her mother was away, either doing her homework or fetching water to fill their drum at home. One such evening, Prince decided to act on his motives. Juliet had finished her homework and was sitting on the stairs in front of their veranda, waiting for her mother. Just then, Prince called her from his window. "Juliet, Juliet." "Yes, bro Prince," she responded, making her way to his door. "Buy me some gari, sugar, and groundnuts from Auntie Mansa's shop," he said, handing her a 10 cedi note. Juliet took the money and went to buy the items. When she returned, she knocked on his door. Prince took the items from Juliet and quickly asked her to keep the change. Juliet was happy and thanked him before heading home. Prince's plan had failed, but he was determined to try again. Days passed. One Saturday, Agartha traveled for a funeral, leaving Juliet behind. Prince noticed that Agartha was not home and that Juliet was alone. He called Juliet and asked her to buy him 2 bottles of malt and biscuits, handing her a 50 cedi note. Juliet left for the shop, unaware of the danger awaiting her. When she returned, Prince invited her inside. "Come in," Prince told her. Juliet walked in and handed him the items. As she turned to leave, Prince locked the door. "Why are you locking the door?" Juliet asked, confused. "Stay. Let's enjoy the drinks together," Prince said. Juliet became uncomfortable. "I need to wash the laundry," Juliet said. "Sit down," Prince said sternly. Juliet grew restless and begged him to let her leave. Prince grabbed her wrist. Juliet began crying and begged him to let her go. Just then, Prince's friend knocked on the door. Prince froze. "Prince, are you there?" his friend called. Juliet's heart raced. Prince pretended not to be home. When the friend left, Prince warned Juliet not to tell anyone. Juliet ran home and locked the door behind her. When Agartha returned and saw Juliet distressed, she demanded to know what had happened. Juliet broke down and cried. Sister Amanda, a neighbor, told Agartha that she saw Juliet coming from Prince's room. Agartha stormed to Prince's house and banged on the door. Prince hid under his bed. The next morning, Prince packed his belongings and fled from the town, never to return. From that day, Juliet became more reserved. She no longer entertained the attention of men and dressed more modestly. Agartha also learned her lesson and became more protective of Juliet, vowing never to let her out of her sight again. Lessons from the story. Parents should avoid encouraging provocative compliments from the opposite sex toward their teenage daughters. Teenage girls should be taught to be cautious about accepting too many gifts from men, as it can lead to dangerous situations. It's important for parents to educate their daughters about setting boundaries and teach them to resist and report any inappropriate behavior. Creating a safe environment where children feel comfortable discussing any uncomfortable situations is essential. Kindly subscribe, like, and comment. A big shout out to all our new subscribers. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Be the first to share in the comments.